Welcome to Stock Therapy with Penny Queen. Today, I have the Executive Chairman of South Pacific Metals on with me. And before we start, in full disclosure, I own shares. This is my largest mining investment. I am biased, extremely biased. So do not take anything I say as investment advice. Now, with that out of the way, I personally believe that this company should be worth at least $150 million, maybe more. Right now, it's trading at a $24 million US market cap. Now, South Pacific has 4 major projects that they control in Papua New Guinea. And here's the thing, each of these projects could be a company maker on their own. So the one that we're going to be discussing today is Kilateke, which has 4.2 million ounces of gold equivalent resources. And when you look at how peers are trading, companies with similar projects, they're getting $20, $40, sometimes $75 per ounce from the market. And South Pacific is currently getting $4 per ounce. And that's just one project. They have 4. So I am biased. I put my money where my mouth is. And I think that the math here is pretty straightforward. The market's valuing this company like it has one mediocre early stage project. And the reality is very different. So today we're going to talk about why. Michael, thank you for joining me.
Hi, Penny. Thanks for having me.
All right, let's just start with the basics. So what is Kilateke and why should investors care about it?
So Kilateke has been around for a bit. Harmony Gold had it until recently. They drilled 36,000 meters on it, spent about $25 million, and then put out this 43101 resource that you referred to. About 8 years ago, they lost their social license. So they basically walked away from the project, maintained ownership, but walked away from working. We bought it from them for $1 million and a 1.5% royalty. It took us about 6 years, but we've reestablished social license with the local landowners, such that we now have a land access agreement in place until we make a build decision. Conveniently, this is the home riding of the Prime Minister, so that certainly has helped move things along.
Okay, so when Harmony Gold had it, the gold prices were half of what they are today. They spent $25 million exploring it. And the primary reason that they couldn't continue was that social license. Can you talk?
It was the only reason.
The only reason. Okay, can you talk a little bit about social license and explain to everyone what that is?
Well, you're operating in somebody's backyard. You want to make sure you're welcome in that backyard. And the way you maintain your invitation is treating people fairly, involving them in the process, sharing the economics with them, employment, contributions to the community, being open, honest, and straight with them, and that's what we've done. So it took a while to build up some trust, and I think we've been quite successful at that.
Okay, well, I've seen the numbers, and 36 kilometers of drilling. That is a massive amount of work that's already been done. What does the historical drilling tell you?
It tells us that we're sitting on a very large, somewhat deep porphyry system. We have, I think it's like 8 meters of, sort of 13% copper, but it's, quite deep down. So it tells you that we're sitting on a system, a big system with obviously a highly mineralized system. I'll be honest, the part that really gets me excited about this project, though, is not necessarily where this sort of central porphyry is. There's 2 other areas very close to it, just about 500 or 600 to the meters to the west. Is this the Aru area, which we think is a skarn. Some of the, let me check my notes here. We've got a 132 meter trench at 55% copper and 0.6 gold. We're taking rock chip samples at 27% copper, 3 grams gold. It would be really exciting to get out there and drill that. The second area, which personally I even get more excited about, is we call the Ridge Gold area. Now, it's called the Ridge Gold because it's on the top of the hill. So what the material I'm going to talk about now hasn't rolled down, or it hasn't come from somewhere. I mean, it's fallen from the sky, or it's in its original spot. I mean, just there's no other way to explain how it gets there. So we've done a bunch of geochem on it, or historically geochem was done. It has the identical soil signature to Program. Program is about 40 kilometers to the east, has produced 20 million ounces so far, and shows no sign of quitting. So we then went and did some more work, and we're getting 9 grams or 9,000 parts per billion and 1.3% copper in the soil, not the rock, in the soil. If you get 50 to 100 parts per billion in Australia, they get really excited. This is 9,000. So again, we've reestablished this, social license and whatnot. So we're starting the process of re-engaging with the community. We're going to, start working, shortly. And again, there's a bit of an education process that needs to go on with new community members and stuff. So we're just we'll proceed, respectfully and thoughtfully. But, nobody's been on this property for 8 years. The mineralization is just about like nothing you've ever seen before. And, we're now getting a chance to work on it, which is pretty exciting.
All right. So basic recap, you do have a resource, but that's not even the part that gets you excited. It's Eru and the Ridge Gold area. Those are some really, really well mineralized finds you've got there.
Yeah.
I mean, those are numbers you hardly ever hear that. So I'm excited to see what else is there too.
Yeah.
All right.
No. So are we. And as I say, we're now, after 8 years, we're back on the project.
All right. Well, that's exciting. So I know you've mentioned AI and machine learning work by ALS Goldspot. What did that analysis reveal?
It came up with, we've talked about 2 target areas. They've come up with 6 really, really attractive areas. We don't lack of, world-class, first-class, whatever you want to call it, exploration targets. It's about prioritizing them. So the 2 I've referred to, Eru and Ridge, in the Ridge area, those are the ones we're going to prioritize. But there's targets. There's a lot of targets here.
This is something that, if people aren't familiar with the geology of Papua New Guinea, it's an incredibly rich area, volcanic, all sorts. It's got everything you need. It's a fairly new chain of islands, as comparatively, and it's just really amazing geology. But the thing that strikes me most about South Pacific is that you managed to pick up these 4 separate properties, but they all had a lot of history that hadn't been merged together. So I know you spent a good amount of time when you first got to the company, basically going through all of the paper records and everything else. And I think people are so used to, especially when it comes to buying mining assets, they're so used to just having all the information in front of them and making the pricing decisions based on that. But you guys have decades of information. 36 kilometers of drilling on one project is absolutely insane, especially for, the stage it's in, already having a resource established there. I think that was a really good pickup. And I can't wait to talk about this again, 2 years from now, about what a good pickup it was. So, all right. So for you, when you look at how the market values Kilateke today versus what you believe is actually there, what's the disconnect?
Yeah. Well, I don't think we get any value for it. I don't think there's any value in the share price. The value in the share price, I think, only sort of reflects the possibility of all the property we have around the K92 mine. We rarely talk about it, and the reason we really rarely talk about Kilateke is we've really just been able to get access. Again, we want to keep the message into the company straightforward. But once we can start to do some work here and we start to get some results, my expectation is that people are going to notice. And when I do sit with, institutional investors and, make a lengthy presentation, it's usually finished with quite a few, wide-eyed explicatives about the grade and the size of all of this.
So my personal take on what's going here with the disconnect in the valuation is that you've kind of been in stealth mode as you picked up the properties. I think if anybody would have gone out and said, look at what's here, and then tried to buy it, it would have been a much more expensive process. But you found these great projects, put them together, and then the inside ownership is, I think that's something that's important for shareholders to understand, just how much of the company is held in so few hands and the experience in those hands. Do you want to get into that at all?
Sure. So real insiders, so let's call that board and management, is about 18 or 20%. When you include what I would call strategic partners, we're up to about 60 or 70%. 12 of us own about, that group is about 12 people. Any one of these individuals or funds could literally fund this company just about to production. So very, very deep pocketed, very supportive shareholder base. I mean, if I'm honest, that's the one criticism I get is, we need to increase the liquidity a bit. So I'm working on that.
Again, for anyone who's listening, this is all my personal opinion, but when I look at a company and I look at the shareholders, if you're 80% owned by retail investors, good for you. Great, people noticed you. That's what's happened. But when I see something that has people with a high degree of mining and finance knowledge taking giant chunks of the company this early on, it tells me something, that people who have been consistently right have made this choice. And I know, just in all things investment, that prior performance does not indicate future performance, but to see that people have opened up their deep pockets and put a big chunk in on this company says that they see what's here. And I think the next stage is that retail starts to look and see what's here. I mean, but you've had the price of gold double and you've still been unnoticed. And that's because you guys aren't you aren't like trying to pump the stock. You're trying to develop the story and develop the project. So I definitely appreciate that, because nobody wants to see something, take off without news and then just fall back. We want to see like this, you've demonstrated the value. And when I look at this, at $4 an ounce for your gold equivalent here, that is absolutely ridiculous. When I can point out 4 or 5 companies with $40 an ounce that are in earlier stages and they only have one project and you have 4. So I want to go through with you, and we'll just keep doing these, and we will go project by project until we have everything to hand people, and they can spend the time and they can look through this and they can make up their own mind, and they'll probably find themselves like me with South Pacific as their largest mining investment. So is there anything else you want to add before we go?
I would just, one last thing, just in terms of the shareholders, there's not a material shareholder that's not a retired mining executive or miners focused investor. Like, it's a really sophisticated shareholder base.
Would you do me a favor and talk just a little bit about your history and talk about Torex? Because I think that's a critical piece of context to understand where you're coming from and how you're developing in South Pacific.
Sure. So I founded Torex some years ago. It was a shell company. We bought a single asset. Unlike the deals we've done on these assets, we had to write a check for $150 million, which was suboptimal. It's all worked out finally. But I built, hired a board, hired management team, developed the resource, spent a couple $100 million drilling it, raised $1 billion to construct it. where the company's now in the second phase of construction. I think it's got about a $4.5 billion market cap and produces 450,000 ounces. So, I mean, I don't take responsibility for all that, but I sat on the board for 13 years and was certainly, certainly a part of that. So I've been part of this before. I've kind of done it before, and I've got a really, really excellent group of people. I mean, our new CEO, Timo Jurusta used to be the head of corporate development for Placer. He's worked in country. He was the head of corporate development for Gold Corp. He's run exploration programs around the world. I mean, we really, really have a solid group of people. It's a full team effort.
Excellent. That's exactly what I wanted to hear. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you. And we'll get back on it with the next project.
Awesome. Thanks, Betty.